Dear student, you are most welcome to this presentation on problems and solutions for core components of tourism. There are three important components which are the basics and play a vital role in growth of tourism industry. Other elements which are also important for tourism. Whenever a person is going for a tour, he or she faces some or the other kinds of hurdles in meeting the basic components of tourism. In this episode, we will discuss about those core components and how to reach them. Further, we will learn about modern tourism such as adventure tourism, youth tourism and alternative tourism. For your convenience, this episode has been divided into 5 divisions as follows: accessibility, accommodation and attraction, other facilities, seasonality problems and solutions, adventure tourism, youth tourism and alternative tourism. Problems and solutions of basic components of tourism. Accessibility and tourism. Transportation is one among the very basic components of tourism. Each and every travel and tourism experience of tourists and the ideas about tourism products starts and ends with transportation. One cannot consider tourism without transportation. The development of transportation, transportation vehicles, infrastructure and using new technologies in this sector speeds up the development of tourism. Fast growth of transportation sector and application of technological innovations which enable the tourists to reach many destinations of the world. The areas needed attention are listed below. Modes of transportation to specific regions must be developed. Competitive transportation costs had to be fixed always. The passengers must be attracted to sea and railway modes of transportation. New embarkation ports must be established in order to develop cruise travel. New fast train lines must be established and new fast trains must be bought and foreign experience must be applied. The distance from stations must be kept less. New coaches must be brought to the country. New technologically advanced aircrafts must be put into airlines. The personnel must be trained. The government should allocate financial support for the development of transportation. Accessibility is very crucial factor as it is a means by which a tourist can reach there where attractions are located. Tourist attractions of whatever type would be of little importance if their locations are inaccessible by the normal means of transport. If the tourist attractions are located at places where no transport can reach or where there are inadequate transport facilities, these become of little value. The tourist attractions are located near to the tourist generating markets and are linked by a network of efficient roads and can be easily reached by the air, receive the maximum number of tourists. The distance factor also plays an important role in determining a tourist choice of a destination. Longer distance factor cost much in a way of expression travel as compared to short distance. An example can be that of India. About 1.5 million tourists arrivals for a country of the size of India may look rather unimpressive. However, if one looks at certain factors like the country's distance from the affluent tourist markets of the world such as the United States, Europe, Canada, Japan and Australia, one may conclude that the long distance is rather one of the factors responsible for low arrivals. It costs a visitor from these countries quite a substantial amount to visit India for a holding. It has been stated earlier that Europe and North America continue to main generating and receiving areas for international tourism, accounting for as much as 70% and 20% respectively of international tourist arrival. The intra-regional tourism has an appreciable influence on the distribution of world arrivals. of the total international tourist movements within Europe and North America, at least 80% are intra-regional. In the Americas and United States and Canada alone account for nearly 50% of all international tourist traffic in the regions where intra-regional international tourist movements are therefore also predominant. In Europe, intra-regional tourism accounts for over 80% of international tourist movement. Easy accessibility thus is a key factor for the growth and development for tourism movements. Transport facilities such as air, rail and road connectivity at these destinations and the connecting cities are inadequate. This remains a major hurdle for development of tourism. Roadways form a vital network in the tourist industry. In India, with almost 70% tourists are travelling by road. Furthermore, almost all the tourist circuits depends on roads. In spite of numerous efforts to improve road infrastructure, connectivity remains a major problem. There is a greater need for strengthened road and rail network, development of more expressways and tourist-specific routes to improve connectivity to various locations across different regions. Aviation infrastructure is also critical since it is a major mode of entry for inbound tourism. Passenger traffic is expected to increase in the coming years. However, infrastructure facilities at airports are cause for concern. Expansion and development of airports at major gateway cities is underway to cater to the increasing passenger traffic. However, in addition, airport facilities at important secondary cities and tourist destinations also need to be improved to be able to handle greater passenger traffic. Accommodation and tourism. Accommodation is very basic to any tourist destination. Accommodation is a very important part of the tourism infrastructure and development of tourism is a function of accommodation. Tourism depends on quality as well as quantity of accommodation facilities available. Accommodation sector has been considered as one of the core factors of tourism. According to India, the accommodation sector is always on the lacking side. The demand for accommodation away from one's home is met by a variety of facilities. The term is loosely used to cover food and lodging. The types of accommodation have undergone considerable changes since the last 25 years. There has been a decline in the use of boarding houses and small private hotels. The larger hotels are managing more or less to keep their share of holiday trade, especially in big metropolitan areas and popular tourist areas. Attraction and tourism. Scenic attractions like good weather are very important factors in tourism. Scenery or the landscape consisting of mountains, lakes, waterfalls, glaciers, forests, deserts, etc. are strong forces attracting people to visit them. Breathtaking mountain scenery and the coast scenery exert a strong fascination for the tourist. The magnificent mountain ranges provide an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. Tourists visiting the northern slopes of the Alps, Switzerland and Austria and the southern slopes in Italy and also the Himalayas mountain slopes of India and Nepal for the first time cannot but be charmed by their physical magnificence. Great natural wonders such as the Grand Canyon in the United States, the Giant's Causeway of Northern Ireland, the Niagara Falls, the geysers of Iceland, the glaciers of Alps, the forests of Africa, the mighty rivers, the lakes and the deserts are source of great interest to many tourists and have become the basis of an expanding tourist industry. Other facilities, seasonality, problems and solutions. Other facilities. Amenities are the services that are required to meet the needs of tourists while they are away from home. They include public toilets, retail shopping, restaurants and cafes, visitor centers, telecommunications and emergency services. Because many of the amenities are government services delivered by local, state and national agencies, a high degree of cooperation is needed, particularly where tourist services may not be seen to be competing with the needs of local residents. Facilities are a necessary aid to the tourist center. For a seaside resort, facilities like swimming, boating, yachting, surf riding and such other facilities like dancing, recreation and amusements are important for every tourist center. Amenities can be of two types: natural, example beaches, sea bathing, possibilities of fishing opportunities for climbing, trekking, rowing, etc. and man-made, example various types of entertainments and facilities which cater for the special needs of the tourists. Excellent sandy beaches sheltered in sunshine, having palm and coconut trees and offering good bathing conditions from very good tourist attractions. Certain other natural amenities such as spacious sheltered water for the purpose of sailing or the opportunities for fishing and shooting are also very important. Seasonality. The problem of climate change. An issue that tourism and hospitality has to face is climate change. This problem could have greater effects on tomorrow's world and tourism and hospitality in particular than anything else discussed so far. Some of the changing climate includes rising sea levels, include negative effects on ski areas with fewer days of snow cover, increased cloud and rainfall in some areas, and increased temperatures and great sun exposure in other parts of the world with general increased turbulence and unpredictability of weather. The above mentioned issues may have significant impacts on hospitality operations. If sea levels do rise significantly as forecast, many world cities including London, Tokyo, Los Angeles, Washington, Sydney and Singapore would be underwater, as well as Bangladesh, the Maldives, the Netherlands, Florida among others. There would be economic, political and social turmoil. Tourism depends on global economic well-being and this would not exist if this scenario becomes reality. At this time, however, it seems that only the insurance and banking industries have begun to take real notice of what it is likely to be a significant problem, not just for the industries but the world as a whole. Even if serious steps are taken to reduce the problem, it will be decades before the process is reversed. If needed, it can be reversed. It is worrying that in general, the problem is being ignored by forecasters and by planners. It seems rather naive, for example, to produce a tourism master plan for a place that might be underwater by the time the plan is ready to be implemented. Adventure tourism. You can understand the meaning of adventure tourism by its definition. It is a type of niche tourism involving exploration or travel to remote areas where the traveler should expect the unexpected. Also, it is rapidly growing in the fame as tourists seek unusual holidays different from the typical beach vacation. Adventure tourism is an outdoor leisure activity that generally takes place in an unusual, exotic, remote or wilderness settings, sometimes involving some form of unconventional means of transportation and tending to be associated with low or high levels of physical activity. Since tourists seek different kinds of vacations, adventure tourism has grown in recent decades, but measurement of market size and growth is vulnerable by the lack of a clarity. According to the US-based Adventure Travel Trade Association, adventure travel may be any tourist activity that includes two of it as tourists seek different kinds of vacations. The following three components: a physical activity, a cultural exchange or interaction and engagement with nature. Steps involved in planning for adventure tourism. Collection of information. Initially, one should gather information about the places one wants to go. After that, decide on your budget as well. Then it will be easy for you to shortlist. Planning about the requisites. If you are planning for a trekking camp in the snow or rafting in chilly waters or skiing, then make sure you have enough warm clothing and protection. Make yourself fit before setting out on the trip. If your adventure sports require a lot of strenuous walking and climbing, then train yourself accordingly. Travel with an open mind. You must be prepared for uncomfortable situations, since you are going for an adventure and don't expect anything less than that. Be receptive to change in weather and locality. See and absorb the changes in culture, people and place. Interact with the friendly locals and know the place better. Let yourself loose and enjoy to the fullest. When you are done with your adventure tour, tell it to as many people as you can, because that will keep the freshness in you alive for long. Preserve the pictures and share them with future adventure tourists. Youth tourism. Youth tourism is an emerging, fast-growing sector in the tourism industry. Young travelers who are having preference for budget accommodation, emphasis on meeting other travelers, independently organized, flexible travel schedule and longer rather than brief holidays. Youth tourism has been held through modern activities including travel, backpacking, youth hostels, working holiday programs, education, student flights, cultural exchange, backpacker transport, adventure tours, volunteering, internships, student travel insurance, youth travel agents, tourism boards, internet cafes, language courses, student identity cards and student exchange. Studies show youth tourists travel for purpose, whether to experience a different culture, learn a language, volunteer, work or study. They are keen to experience the local lifestyle and meet other people. In fact, youth tourism heavily promotes opportunities to socialize with fellow travelers. The majority of youth tourism travel on a strict budget, sourcing cheap accommodation, enabling them to have a relatively long duration journey and spend their money on a wide range of activities such as nature, culture and adventure. Interestingly enough, youth tourism spends more money than those in other tourism sectors, as they spend 4 times longer travelling than the average visitor. Furthermore, youth tourists value their flexible itineraries. They report the most memorable travel experiences, often those that are unexpected, and the finest discoveries are those they make themselves. Factors responsible for growth of youth tourism: easy loan availability, encouraging visa policies by countries, easy internet accessibility, social media, publications, resilience, economic importance. Alternative tourism. Alternative tourism is not a type of tourism but is rather a guiding principle involving ecotourism, farm tourism, heritage tourism, cultural tourism, etc. Alternate tourism aims at seeking a transition from impersonal, traditional mass tourism to establishing cordial rapport between visitors and the local hosts. It is primarily related to the scale of development in terms of product indigenization, healthy interaction amongst people, local control and on attempt to bring back the lost art of travel. The call for alternate tourism coincides with Western travelers increasing dissatisfaction towards typical sun-based holidays. In addition to sun, sea and sand, many vacationers now demand tour packages comprising rare wildlife, primitive tribes or archaeological sites. Other demands activity-based holidays where they can hike, bike or go whitewater rafting. This interest in alternate tourism has led to the emergence of specialist tour firms entering demands of a large number of market segments. Conclusion. This session explained the importance of core components of tourism. Then it discusses about the hurdles in getting them and how the technological advancements help the tourist to plan for an easy tour. It also analyzed the modern tourisms like adventure tourism, youth tourism and alternative tourism. Thank you.